How is everybody doing? This is the last session of the day, so I hope you enjoyed today's session. Lots of different information. So I'm going to talk about cryptocurrency. It's actually hard to be talking about cryptocurrency these days. It's in the news, online, everywhere. Something's happening, price drop, price rise. Someone got hacked just last Friday. CoinCheck, a big Japanese NAM exchange, got hacked and lost $500 million. So these things just seem to be happening all the time. Which also makes it kind of interesting for the security people. So what I'm going to talk on today is cryptocurrency, just touch on some of the fundamentals of how cryptocurrency and blockchain works, and then we'll get into the different issues we're facing in terms of in today's environment in cryptocurrency, and then we'll get into QA. But feel free to ask questions at any time, and I'll try to address everyone's question. My name is Yiman Jiang. I'm a security consultant and security researcher here in Vancouver. I've been around for over 15 years, so quite a bit of time. My main areas that I work in is doing security assessment, penetration testing, incident response, that kind of stuff. I also do quite a fair amount of security training. I've been teaching at BCIT for the last decade on computer forensics and network security. So that's my background. So let's get straight into the cryptocurrency and blockchain fundamentals. Cryptocurrency, as the definition says, is a digital asset designed to work as a medium of exchange using cryptography to secure the transaction and to control the creation of the additional unit of currency. So it's a mouthful, but the basic idea is it's based on public key cryptography. It's a independent system. So there's no centralized banking system or any authority governing the system. It's decentralized. It runs on a P2P network. So anyone can join the P2P network at any time and become a node and participating in this network. And it relies on consensus, and that's the key part. It relies on consensus for transaction confirmation. So cryptocurrency, as Bitcoin everybody sees, is the first and most widely used, and it's also going up and down like a yo-yo the most nowadays. But as of the end of last year, we have over close to 1,400 cryptocurrency today. And many of them are not going to survive. Many of them are used as pump and dump. They are just there to get your money, get investors' money, and run. And there's lots of ICO happening last year. They sell you the token of their cryptocurrency in exchange for either fiat money or other cryptocurrency themselves, and they could just fold and you lose your money. So those things happen on quite often. We only have only a small number of them really have any real purchasing power. So these are the top 10 by market capitalization of cryptocurrency. NAM is the one that was hacked last Friday, lost the $500 million. But together, you can see they have quite a lot of money. Pretty much all cryptocurrency are based the same structure, technology on blockchain as Bitcoin. So they are derived from Bitcoin. There's one that's quite different, IOTA, which is a currency that was launched mid last year sometime. What IOTA does is it's a blockless blockchain. So it functions differently. Instead of having miners on the P2P network dedicated to confirm transactions, IOTA so if you wanted to transmit a transaction, then you have to take on confirming 2 other transactions. And then so that things sort of stack up, right? So they're gaining a lot of momentum in the last little while. And we've all seen the price chart of Bitcoin and some of the other coins. It went to close to probably, I think it went close to 20,000, and now it's around 1,100 or just 10,000 price range. So I've heard reports saying that the drug dealers are finding it's too volatile for them. That's today's crypto Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is used a lot. So blockchain technology is used for cryptocurrency, but it has much wider use than cryptocurrency is one of the first usage, but there are lots of other companies who started developing blockchain as a technology for their application. So for example, Walmart and a whole bunch of grocery stores, they got together, they're using blockchain to develop an app to keep track all their inventory items from the beginning of the producer to the shelf in their store. So there's wider usage of cryptocurrency besides, wider usage of blockchain besides cryptocurrency. Blockchain itself is an open, decentralized, distributed digital ledger. So the concept of blockchain is basically, it's a transaction ledger that's public. Anybody can look at the transaction ledger. It's all there. So it's a bunch of linked block. And there are tons of block explorer that you can go online and look at all the different transactions. So the transaction itself isn't hidden. What's hidden is who is doing the transaction, which we'll touch on in a bit. So blockchain is based on public key cryptography, and it's inherently resistant to modification. And probably most of you are fairly familiar with public key infrastructure, and public key and private key is the foundation of cryptocurrency. So you can generate, using random number and a whole bunch of algorithm, generate a pair of keys. And the public key then become your cryptocurrency's address, or the form of it, hash of it, not the public key itself, but the hash of the key become your address. And the private key is to demonstrate you own that Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency you own in that public address. So using public key, private key cryptography, we're not using the encryption function because all the transactions are open. We're using the integrity and authentication function. So digital coin, as defined by Nakamoto, this is a pseudonym, we don't actually know who he is. Digital coin is defined as a series of transactions. So there's no actual thing called coin or Bitcoin, there's no such thing. It's a series of transactions. So each owner would transfer the coin to the next by digitally signing the hash of previous transaction and the public key of the next owner and adding those to the block. So that is, and this is a classic diagram from Nakamoto of how this blockchain actually works. So you have the previous transaction, add on to so the next transaction, if that's to owner 2, then you will add that public key to the previous transaction, hash it using the previous owner's private key to sign it, and then that tells you who previously owned, who can spend that money, and where that money is going to end up to, which is owner 2. So that's the process of the blockchain, and that's what you will see. cryptocurrency wallet. So a wallet is a software, basically allows you to trade your cryptocurrency. So you can send and receive cryptocurrency through the software. Wallet, as saying wallet, doesn't actually store. Again, there's no such thing as coin. What it stores is your public key and private key pair. And it keeps track of your ledger, which is all the transactions you've done through your wallet. So most of cryptocurrency have popular wallets they use, but there are tons and tons of wallets you can use out there. So here I'm just listing a small number of popular wallets out there. Some of them are desktop wallets. Some of them allow you to do both mobile wallet and desktop wallet. Some of them are co-signed, so you can have multi-signature wallet, which means the address would have to be signed by multiple private key in order to be spent. So it's equivalent of multi-signature checking account, kind of. And then there are those hardware keys. Hardware wallet, which is basically USB keys where people store the private key. Because if you think about it, the only thing that proves you who owns your cryptocurrency is your private key. If you lose that key, you've lost your money. So people take a lot of precautions measure to protect their private key. Some goes as far as printing them on paper and not store them in electronic form. So here we're using new technology, yet we're protecting it. And this is serious. Lots of, like Coinbase is one of the biggest US cryptocurrency exchange. They store 98% of their cryptocurrency in either cold storage, which means offline, or in paper form, or both, not online, because with all the hacks going on, they could easily lose it. So exchanges are those organizations or companies set up to help you buy or sell cryptocurrency. And they are, because if you're just dealing with cryptocurrency, you don't have to deal with any exchange. But if you wanted to change money from fiat money to cryptocurrency, you have to come into contact with one of them. So they allow you to buy and sell. So this is sort of the intersection between fiat money and cryptocurrency. And many of the cryptocurrency exchange also offers online wallet, which means you can just sign online and then go open up a wallet and start your trading. I want to emphasize on the hot and cold wallet difference. Hot wallet means it's online, whether it's physically online on a storage or it's on your computer, on your desktop, on your mobile phone. As long as it has the opportunity to connect, then it's a hot wallet. If it's a hardware wallet, like the USB key I was showing, or printed out paper, it's cold wallet. So from a security aspect, obviously when it's unplugged, it's the safest. So here is just some random, or one person rated all the different exchanges out there. There's many, many, many. He rated these are to be the top 10 crypto exchange he considers. So you can see from the location of these crypto exchanges, they're all over the place and everybody's operating them. And there's a few setting up here in Vancouver and one pop up here and there all the time. One of them, Coinbase is one of the big ones in the US. One of them I thought most interesting is called the local Bitcoin. Local Bitcoins, what they do, because a lot of people who use cryptocurrency, they really, really want privacy, and that's a big thing. They don't want people to know what they're buying, where they're spending the money, or where the money goes. So local Bitcoins like your Craigslist for your Bitcoin. So you buy and sell, people buy and sell Bitcoin on local Bitcoin using cash. So they will give specific instructions and saying, I'll meet you here, I only take cash, or you deposit cash into this bank account. I'll give you a bank account, but no checks, no credit card, no PayPal, nothing. We're going straight with cash. So there's lots of there. And one of the biggest problem with cryptocurrency exchanges is vast majority of them are unregulated. If you think about your banks and your credit unions and your mortgage lender, they're all regulated on different financial rules where the exchange could be anywhere in the world. Many of them don't really follow the same rule as we do. Even exchanges here in North America or in Canada, depends on how they set up their business. They're not considered a financial institution. They probably don't come under the same rules.
Question?
Yeah.
How do you see that there is going to be an evolution of that? How many of those are going to be there in 5 years? What is going to determine that they're going to stay or they're going to...
I don't know if any of them will be around in 5 years. I don't know if how many people will still be using Bitcoin in 5 years. I mean, it's really hard to say, which coin is going to survive. I think as a technology, blockchain is a really good development, and Bitcoin is designed. Many people have looked through the code of Bitcoin. Other than at the very beginning of Bitcoin development, they have a few minor bugs they fixed. They haven't really found anything really bad with the technology. But is it going to survive as a currency? I'm not sure. And I'll talk about some of the issue. So another key player in the whole system is miner, especially for a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. So miners are the ones who spin up their computing power in order to confirm the transaction. And once they confirm the transaction, they will be rewarded with new Bitcoin as well as rewarded with transaction fees. And other service provider on this cryptocurrency network, there are exchanges, there are miners, but there's many other service providers coming up, providing different services. So payment providers, for example, if you're a merchant, you wanted to accept Bitcoin. Like I was talking to my corner photocopy shop the other day. He wants to accept Bitcoin, but he doesn't want to set up the infrastructure for accepting Bitcoin. Then you would use payment services like BitPay. So the Bitcoin would be sent to BitPay. BitPay would send the merchant fiat money. So instead of you as a merchant getting straight into Bitcoin, someone else is taking that for you. Multi-signature security provider BitGo, they provide special wallet using multi-signature. There's investment trading provider coming up. We're starting to see Bitcoin ETF now even. Lots of security product because the thing is so hot. Mixer and Tumbler, they're on their category on their own. Because privacy is such an important issue that a lot of people don't want it to be known what they're doing. So Mixer and Tumbler comes in. They'll mix a whole bunch of different people's transaction or different people's Bitcoin together to do one transaction or several different transactions. Is much harder to trace. And I'm talking about trace problem a little bit later. And gambling sites are known to use cryptocurrency. Dark market, like called the Silk Road, Alpha Bay, Dream Market, they run exclusively almost on Bitcoin and nowadays on some of the other more security or privacy focused cryptocurrency like Moneros or Dash. So is cryptocurrency really secure? So I'm going to try to answer this question by looking at a few examples. There's lots of different examples out there, but I'm trying to look at a few different cases and show you what is going on. So NiceHash is a mining pool they set up so miners could use their computing power to mine Bitcoin, and then in exchange they get some money back. So this NiceHash pulls everybody's resources together and mine successfully and get rewarded with money. So a lot of the miners just left their Bitcoin after they got rewarded, left it on their online wallet on that NiceHash, and one day, I think it was early December, for 4,700 of them all got stolen. And the part, so people started doing forensics to it. It came through a VPN connection to the exchange, to the NiceHash, and obtained their engineers' credentials in order to transfer the money out. So when the hack like that happens, everybody's watching the blockchain, because the thing with the blockchain is it's public. Anyone can look at the transactions on the blockchain of what's going on. And so they put all the traffic or the transaction traffic into a diagram. All of the 4,700 Bitcoin start from different accounts, different miners' account on the NiceHash, and they aggregate. And this is a very typical hash behavior of hacking Bitcoin, because they sort of need to put everything together and it end up in this one account. So it took them 3 hours to migrate and transfer all of these money into this one account. And then the next transaction, they emptied it all. So once the hacker emptied it all to other account, then you've already lost them. However, all this information, because we have a public open blockchain, all the people who's lost their money, they're going to keep an eye on what's going on each of the wallet. Yeah, you just watch your money go, and people follow them and see where it goes. And typically what the hacker does, these are called accumulation account. They accumulate. From accumulation account, then they start divide out to many, many different accounts. And from there, they possibly use mixer services and mixing with other people's Bitcoin. And then at that point, it would be harder to trace. So that's one. Another one happened, Parity. Parity is an Ethereum platform. So Ethereum works slightly differently than Bitcoin. It's not mostly a cryptocurrency, it's mostly a software platform. So people would write software as if you would write cloud-based software. They write software using Ethereum. And with this, so there's a whole bunch of software being written. The software in Ethereum is called smart contract. With a whole bunch of smart contract there, and there's a junior developer, his code name is DevOps99, just happened to accidentally, well, he claims accidentally, deleted a library that a whole bunch of the smart contract relied on. You would think Parity would put in place the code not to be able to delete a library that so many smart contract is dependent on. But he did. So that action alone managed to freeze a whole bunch of multi-signature wallet. And so those money amounted to 160 million. They're all frozen in the account. They're there, they're not going anywhere, but no one can take them out at this moment. At least no one has been able to figure out. Obviously, Parity would say, when we do the next bug fix, we will, but they haven't. They haven't been able to find them. The next one happened in, July last year. It happened in July last year of CoinDash. Again, this it's a CoinDash ICO. So ICO is sort of similar to IPO but different. So a company set up, they issue these tokens to be their future cryptocurrency that they haven't developed, that they're going to develop. That's why they are asking people to invest, to donate this money. We'll, as a sign of good faith, we'll give you these tokens. You give us either fiat money or other cryptocurrency we will use to develop the product. So during their ICO process, within 7 minutes, all the money that people have donated to them are gone. And the reason for that is hackers had already compromised their website days beforehand and put a web shell on their website. So as soon as their ICO started, they redirected, they just changed the address of this ICO company's address to the hacker's address. And then all the money went to the hacker instead of, so the investor keeps on pouring money in, and the hacker keep on getting money, and the ICO, CoinDash didn't get any. So they only discovered 7 minutes later, but that's already 10 million money gone out. The next one is Bitham. Bitham is one of the largest Bitcoin, they deal with many other cryptocurrency nowadays. Just by looking at their transaction volume, 870 a day, in a day, that's quite a lot. So they had 3,200 Bitham user Bitcoin stolen, and the entry point is one of their employees. So Bitham's employee home computer got compromised, and then VPN'd into Bitham, and then got user data. And the user was also targeted through phishing attack. They phoned Bitham user also in order to get their two-factor authentication, password, and then they hacked their account. So it happened in February last year, but it was only found at the end of June. So quite a long time for them to not be able to detect. And many people believe this hack was started by Lazarus group, because they are a North Korean group, and this is a South Korean exchange. Lazarus group also have been targeting South Korean exchange since early December. A whole bunch of them have been deliberately targeted since then. So it's not something new they're targeting. One more we'll talk about exchange is Bitfinex. Bitfinex is nobody really knows who they are, but they're kind of registered in Hong Kong and Taiwan. Nobody knows really who they own. They are one of the biggest hack of 120,000 Bitcoin, and that's worth 1.5 billion today. When it was hacked, it was 70 million, but today it's 1.5. They didn't release any hacking detail. The company is really very little known about the company, who runs it, what financial record is, do they have the money to back this 120,000 Bitcoin that they lost. What they do know, again, it's similar to NiceHash case. People have tracked about 2,000 address of Bitcoin that this hack has gone to. And most of the money are still sitting there today because it's too big a target to be moving them because of the open blockchain issue. So there's only small amount of them, about 800 of them being moved around. They've been moved around to different mixer and tumbler and trying to hide their pathway of where they're going. But large amount of them are still sitting there. And in the end, what the company did is basically saying to all of their customers that to compensate for this hack, they're going to take off every single account, every customer who owns with them, 30% of their money from this hack, so that they can carry on going. Whether or not at the time of hack you had Bitcoin account with them, when they announce this, you'll be taking for 30% of hit on your money. So those are a few of the examples I show on the exchange side or service provider side, that it's really critical if you're going to be dealing with Bitcoin to find a reliable source to exchange your money or holding your online wallet. Besides the service provider, personally, we also have a lot of issues. Based on a recent report, Chainalysis is one of the cryptocurrency analysis company. We have about between 3 and 4 million Bitcoin that's lost permanently. And that loss is due to people losing their private key. Because once you lost your key, your private key, that you can't get the money back. So those losses have been either people misplaced their passwords, or they misplaced their hard drive, they lost their paper wallet, or their computer crashed, they can't recover. So there's this one guy, UK guy, he is one of the early adopter of Bitcoin. He bought 7,500 Bitcoin early days, probably a few cents, not very much. He didn't really care about it, put it on a external hard drive, throw it somewhere, and it got misplaced. And it got thrown into garbage. And that 7,500 Bitcoin today is worth more than 100 million. He's so beefed, so he said to his city council, now it's gone into the garbage, so he wants to get the money back. He said to his city council, I will pay to get the landfill turned upside down in order to find my hard drive, in order to get my money. 100 million is a lot. You can turn the landfill upside down a few times. But obviously the city council is not going to approve that action. That just goes to show you how important it is using this technology to, if you're going to use this technology to protect yourself. Besides these accidental losses, there's also deliberate hack to steal people's wallet. So as I mentioned earlier, wallet keep your key pair. There are many malware today is targeting cryptocurrency because lots of people are dealing with it. So many of the malwares have been added or upgraded with new component to specifically look for cryptocurrency wallet. So they would just look for wallet files to steal. One of the newer ones come up recently called Crypto Shuffler. So Crypto Shuffler is a malware that sits there doing clipboard hijacking. What that means is every time you want to do a transaction, you're copying, because nobody can remember the cryptocurrency address, so you always copy and paste. That goes into your clipboard. And when you do the copy and paste, they take that, once that's identified, they take that, they slip into their own address. Your money goes to them instead of whoever you're sending the cryptocurrency to. So there's malwares doing it. Hacking group, hacking team, the Italian company that was exposed a couple of years ago with their tactic. They build these spyware and selling to different organizations, including some of the government organizations, malware or spyware. They also developed a Bitcoin module, or they call it money module, specifically to look for stealing Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency. So these examples just shows you none of these are directly related to the crypto blockchain technology or each specific cryptocurrency. However, the security issue still the same as what we always see. The weakest link is the people. Coding and implementation of the service or service provider, the infrastructure protecting around it is not really there, and user behavior in terms of how to protect yourself from those theft is no different than anything else. No different than your email account and your Office 365 account or any other of important information you want to maintain. So some of the security measures that as a user of cryptocurrency that you can do is to secure your device, any device that you're going to use cryptocurrency on as best as you can. That includes hardening, patching, all of the things we have talking about. And if you want to be more secure, keep it on a cold wallet. And one of the scams that people often do is they would call up your cell phone service provider and say that I've changed my phone, this is my new SIM. So they'll use the SIM they switch out the SIM in order, because a lot of the exchange, they're security conscious, so they use two-factor authentication. But two-factor authentication, they're still using SMS. So they would phone up your phone company, switch out your phone, and the message goes there. So you can call up your cell phone company, say, keep a lock on your SIM so that no one, or for a period of time, so no one can change out your phone. Other things like keeping a cold wallet, choose very good password, back up your wallet regularly as the most important thing if you deem it to be important. Also diversify your purchase. Don't rely on just one exchange, because who knows how good their practice is. And don't keep a majority of your money online, the online wallet. Keep most of them offline and only keep what's online that you need to trade with. And do not use SMS text message as your second factor authentication, because this is directly related to the bug that we've exposed last year, the SS7 issue. So two-factor authentication using SMS is done deal. Try something else. Try Google Authenticator or YubiKey if that's what you choose, but do not use SMS as a second authentication. So that's the security side of things. On the social side, cryptocurrency is also making a lot of other issues. Ransomware probably wouldn't be as rampant as we are today, because almost all ransomware exclusively request a payment in Bitcoin, because these hackers or whoever is doing it are thinking that they can't really trace Bitcoin. That's why ransomware. And black market is also using Bitcoin or cryptocurrency because, again, they think it's harder to trace. Cryptocurrency has become an offshore account. So if you look at all the cryptocurrency activity, Asia actually has the most activity in cryptocurrency. They have many more transaction volume compared to here. And typically in South Korea, the exchange rate for Bitcoin, say, for example, are 20-30% higher than any exchange here, because they have such more higher transaction. And one of the reasons is it is an offshore account. So once you put your money into Bitcoin, it can move around all over the world, and it's anonymous to some degree, not completely, which I will sort of talk about that. The newest threat is cryptocurrency mining. So this has become the latest big issue of turning all computers into mining, because mining takes a lot of resources, and hackers have been able to install malware, and the whole function of the malware is, instead of stealing information from your computer, is to steal your computing power. And all of the big guys, as a matter of fact, most recently, one report came out says 55% of all business have been hit with crypto mining malware.
Around the world?
Yeah, around the world. Yeah, so FBI have been hit, Harvard supercomputer cluster has been hit, National Science Foundation supercluster has been hit to do all these mining. But these are maybe this negative aspect, but some positive when all the major credit card companies stopped donation, they stopped processing payment, donation payment to WikiLeaks. Bitcoin was the one that people started using to donate WikiLeaks. So Bitcoin did play a very important role in that regard. Some other issues with, this is a hash rate diagram for Bitcoin. So if hash rate measures all the miners, their computing powers on the network. So if you look at this diagram at any one time, the top 4 to 8 miners are all from China. And China is mining about 70 to 80% of Bitcoin. And the reason for that is they have much cheaper electricity. And mining takes a lot of electricity. As I've seen, each Bitcoin transaction consumes 250 kilowatts, and that's enough to power a home for 9 days. That's a lot. And as the price of Bitcoin goes up, more people join to try to mine to get a reward, the electricity consumption goes up as well. So that poses an issue, because if you have one country or one organization, because I said at the very beginning, cryptocurrency runs on P2P network, it's a consensus-based system. So if any one entity controls more than 50% of the hash power, computing power, they dictate what happens. Well, we can't say they are one entity because they are 4 or 8 different mining companies, but you don't know if there's potentially could be any collusion in between all of that. So there's social issues, but the good news about it is China is shutting down all Bitcoin. They've shut down Bitcoin exchanges last October. they're gradually phasing out to shut down or all cryptocurrency miners. So they're planning to be out of the market. But I have heard that the market is coming to Canada because we have cheap electricity. And the second criteria is we have cold weather, because all these mining generate a lot of heat. So the two most criteria necessary is electricity and cold weather. So maybe they'll use all the site to see extra electricity for mining. Who knows? Okay. Privacy issues. Privacy issue is huge on especially Bitcoin. People think just because each of the transaction is done through public address of Bitcoin, and you can look at this and you can't really tie directly of each address to an identity that you're anonymous, your transaction is anonymous. But that's only so far it can go. We have been developing lots of different ways to track how a Bitcoin address can relate to a real person. It's not a direct, it's not easy, it takes a lot of work, but it can be done some of the time. So a lot of work that's gone into it using things like Bitcoin clustering analysis. So the addresses work on the blockchain because you can all view all the addresses and where all the money flows. You can figure out characteristic of these addresses and lump them together as belonging to one identity. And if one of the address happen to be able to link to a real identity, then you have whole of the transaction history of this user in lumped up to be identified. Through exchanges, service providers, a lot of exchanges, service providers, they will keep track of who is doing which transaction, just in case authority come down on them for compliance's reason. Because as financial institutions always have to follow as know your customer rules, they may afraid that they would do that. So because all cryptocurrency, when they leave, when they change into fiat money, they have to go through these exchanges. These exchanges are your central point of linkage with a real identity to a Bitcoin address. There's lots of techniques being developed through time analysis and amount analysis to figure out what these things are. And so this is a diagram that through massive computing, an algorithm to identify the addresses on the Bitcoin blockchain where they belong. So the red ones are the dark market, green ones are exchanges or service provider, these ones are purple ones are a gambling site, etc. So those things are what we do to find out what address belongs to what identity on the blockchain. And then when an individual interact with any one of the entity, and all the errors are all referring to transactions that are happening between the entities, so you can follow them very closely to where the money goes, and possibly through one of those also identify who the real user of these monies are. Whoops. So there's an arms race on privacy. So there are legit reasons why they specifically people want privacy. Because people who started cryptocurrency has this idealistic idea. It's, I want a decentralized system. I don't want anyone to know what I'm purchasing, what I'm doing with my money. So I wanted to have an ultimate privacy of what I do with my money. where there are other sides, there's a law enforcement side, they need to be able to find how to link a real identity to some of the criminal activity, because there's lots of money laundering issues at using cryptocurrency because it's harder to trace. So progress has been made on both sides. Bitcoin itself is developing new aspects to make it better in terms of privacy. Coin mixer and tumbler. So these things, how they work is because if you follow each of the transactions, then you know where the money goes and you know where the money comes from. And if you can tie an identity to it, then you know where the money goes. So the mixer, there's different mechanism the mixer works. One of the way it works is it's a third party. Then you send your money or whatever you want to spend to the mixer. Mixer, a whole bunch of people sending money. So you have to have trust to the mixer guys. And then they send out the money either to your destination or back to you, but using a completely different address so that the linkage is not so obvious. But there are analysis we can do on mixer services as well, because the amount you put in, the time it gets out, so that's where the time analysis, amount analysis coming. It can't hide too much. So, for example, the Bitfinex hack, 120,000 Bitcoin. You can't just send that Bitcoin to a mixer, because most of mixer works on 1 to 10 Bitcoin range, right? You have this 120K Bitcoin coming in. It's not going to mix with 1 or 2 or 10 Bitcoin very well. So it doesn't work on large theft. It works on smaller theft. And there newer cryptocurrency are there to address privacy issues specifically. So like Moneros is becoming a new favorite of the dark market of the hackers who are stealing Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. So they all work in different ways. Moneros works by what's called ring signature. So instead of having your private key signing the transaction, so we know that's you who authorized the transaction, they bunch whole bunch of transactions with whole bunch people's signature. And that way, it's hard to identify which one actually did the transaction. Dash works in a different way. Dash has built-in mixing service. They're constantly mixing your money with other people's money. Zcash is again very different in the sense, as I mentioned, blockchain technology mostly works on not encrypting the access, the transaction, where Zcash managed to come up with an algorithm. They actually encrypt the entire transaction. So that if you're looking at a Zcash transaction, if they choose, you can choose to encrypt or not encrypt. But if you choose to encrypt, you're just not going to see where it comes, where it goes, what's the amount transaction have been done on. So there are different mechanisms people have used to help the privacy. But again, obviously researchers are all doing more work to be able to detect privacy or link privacy. So lastly, I just want to quickly talk about the financial issues. The wild price swing is also a big issue. Transactions normally are not reversible on blockchain because it's just one way. It goes ahead. And when they have a big hack, like Ethereum happened, a lot of them, when they get into a big hack, it's a fundamental issue for the platform or for the cryptocurrency, they may decide to hard fork to ignore what happened. But most of the time, they don't do, they're not reversible. Fungibility is directly tied with privacy issue, because if you can tell where the money came from, that you may not want that money. So if a Bitcoin, you know that Bitcoin was stolen from somewhere, and organizations are, especially financial organizations, are ranking on these Bitcoins that came from a route of stolen. They will refuse to take those Bitcoins. So fungibilities, privacy issues make the fungibilities harder for these cryptocurrency. If there's no privacy, then the money would be treated differently. Your Bitcoin and my Bitcoin probably will be ranked differently, and it will be rejected sometime and not be able to accept. And finally, there's a finite supply of 21 million of Bitcoin. Today, we're sitting at 17 million. So is it a viable as a currency by 2036? 99% of them would already be issued. So long range, is that a viable as a currency for platform? That's a question. So any questions?